clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
Hi, it's Adam here, and on today's episode of The Hypnotist, we've got something a bit original, a bit unique, that is designed to help people access a state of hyper-resourcefulness. Now, there is a reality TV show that is in a lot of different countries called The Biggest Loser, where the contestants are competing to lose as much weight as they can in order to win a prize. And actually, a lot of the contestants do lose a lot of weight on that game show, even if they struggle to lose weight in real life. And that really comes about from two main reasons. One is the fact that there is high levels of accountability. You're on a TV show, you have a public audience, and you've got, this kind of regular weigh-in that takes place. You've got a lot of accountability on this TV show. Alongside that, obviously, you've got lots of resources. They've got personal trainers, they've got nutritionists. So you've got a combination of accountability, clarity as to what the whole premise is, that your goal is to lose weight. You've got lots of resources, but equally, you've got this element of an incentive. If you don't lose enough weight, you're not going to win anything. But if you do, in some countries, it's a very big sum that people can win. So I kind of looked at that TV show and thought, how do we recreate that hypnotically without you being a contestant on a TV show? But to make it hyper-resourceful, it has a bit of a dark twist in the sense that the gentleman I was working with, he was familiar with kind of things like Running Man, with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Hunger Games. So I said, look, what would be the most incentivizing thing, and what would be, the biggest consequence you would want to avoid? And obviously the people that he loved, and nothing bad happening to them was a really powerful leverage. Although that's contextual to him, I think anyone listening to this is going to get a sense of, if you were a contestant on a weight loss game show where the stakes were very high, what would your strategy be to lose weight? And there's a very famous scene in Fight Club where the Brad Pitt character takes a gentleman who is working in a convenience store, a late night convenience store, and he takes him out and he threatens to shoot him. And he said, look, what do you really want to do in your life? And he said, I want to be a vet. And he said, why aren't you pursuing that? He's like, oh, it's tough. And what he does is he threatens to kill him if he doesn't pursue that particular dream of becoming a vet. He takes his driving license, says that he's going to check in on him. And what's interesting, what's really powerful in that movie scene is that everyone watching it realizes that when the stakes are that high, all the excuses, all of the reasons as to kind of why not to do something, they go out of the window. When people have to, they do. And it's a question I ask a lot of my weight loss clients if they have children. I say, look, if an evil wizard floated down from a cloud, took your children away and said you have to lose a stone or 10 kilos in order to get your children back, could you do it? And in every case, they absolutely know with 100% certainty that they could. And that's why this particular hypnosis session, which is this kind of hyper-resourceful weight loss game show, is quite good. Not because you are actually in a game show, but it gives you a sense of what your strategies would be, how motivated you would be if you simply had to lose the weight. So great for anyone wanting something a bit different in order to get you clear on what you would do to lose weight and how you would do it. There'll be a couple of minutes worth of relaxing music before the hypnosis starts. So just focus on your breathing, find somewhere comfortable, relax, and just enjoy the session. And as you breathe in, I want you to imagine that you're breathing in a sense of calmness, positivity, and relaxation. Breathing in relaxation and breathing out tension. I want you to picture a colour that best represents warmth and relaxation. And maybe it's the colours that you would see in a fireplace, oranges and reds. Or maybe the particular colours that you might see in a sunset on a particular hot and warm day at the end of an evening. As you breathe in those warm colours of relaxation, I want you to imagine that they are melting away any tension. Sometimes it's useful to imagine that any tension in your body is best represented by crystals or shards of ice. As you breathe in that warm feeling of relaxation, I want you to get an overall sense that they're melting away. Breathing in that warm feeling of relaxation and imagining the vibrancy of that colour that you're breathing in. And as you breathe out, imagining that what you're breathing out is somehow darker, that you're exhaling whatever is no longer needed, any tension, any stress, any anxiety. That's right. And I want you to imagine that you're lying on the most comfortable reclining chair that exists. Imagine that it's soft and comfortable and you can kind of sink into it. Put your feet up and just relax. And I want you to imagine that you're on that chair and there is a large TV screen in front of you. And this TV screen might be perhaps almost like a projector, almost like a small cinema, or maybe just a very large flat screen TV. And to begin with, all I want you to do is imagine on that TV is a picturesque, relaxing scene. And I don't know if that will be waterfalls cascading into different rock pools that then cascade into different levels and levels, or if it would be waves gently breaking on a shore. But whatever image comes to mind on that screen, I want you to imagine that it's not just a screen, but you can see that scene right in front of you. As you breathe in that warm feeling of relaxation, exhaling any tension, any stress, any anxiety, I want you to get an overall sense that you're becoming deeper and deeper relaxed. That your attention isn't on you, but on the scene in front of you that you're witnessing. You know your body's relaxed and relaxing by the second, but somehow you feel like you're in a different place. And occasionally while I'm talking, your conscious mind will pick up on different sounds. The sound perhaps of traffic on the street below, footsteps or voices outside of a doorway, perhaps even the ticking of a clock. In a strange and contradictory way, these sounds do exactly what I need them to do. Because the more distracted your conscious mind is, the better able I am to influence the unconscious mind. The part that determines how fast your heart beats. The part that determines how many breaths you take per day. You blink when you need to blink, not by conscious control. Your metabolic rate, the speed at which your body processes energy, is not within your conscious control, it's completely unconscious. Your appetite is not normally something you can increase or decrease by thought alone. And yet all these things are able to be influenced
Sometimes you might have wondered how simply by waking up to bright sunshine, perhaps on a summer's day, can make you feel very alert, even if it's very early in the morning. And yet, you can also wake up drowsy some days, simply because it's dark, even though it's late in the morning. Your body has the ability to respond to different stimulus, depending on your surroundings. If you're in a stressful situation, your body will unconsciously increase the levels of cortisol in your blood. If you're in an anxious situation or a fearful situation, your body will release adrenaline completely without conscious control. And just imagine that these hormones and neurotransmitters have the ability to influence things like appetite, influence things like metabolic rate, influence your body's ability to process energy and burn fat completely unconsciously. And before we go into the deeper levels of trance, I want you to imagine that somewhere in your body is a furnace. The kind of furnace that you might imagine would be in a steam engine. One of those old-fashioned railway trains. And I want you to imagine that if you were in the control room where that furnace is, if you threw newspaper onto that furnace, it would give a bright but very temporary heat. However, if you threw logs onto that furnace, the logs would take longer to catch fire. But when they do catch fire, they would release a slow heat, stable energy. So much more energy can come from those logs. And I want you to imagine inside your own body that eating refined carbohydrates is a little bit like throwing paper onto the furnace. It can feel good, it can give the illusion of energy. But if you do that, you're simply going to crave more newspaper, crave more of that refined carbohydrates. And I want you to imagine that your body fat is really the logs. That sometimes it can take time for your body to recognize that your body fat is even a fuel source. But once your body does recognize that body fat is a fuel source, it can then give you that slow, steady energy without requiring any excess food from the outside. And the easiest way to train your body to burn those logs that are already inside you is simply to reduce the amount of processed foods and refined carbohydrates. And refined carbohydrates are simply carbohydrates that are not single ingredient. Biscuits, bread, anything that's been processed is a refined carbohydrate. Carbohydrates that are single ingredient, like vegetables, salads, fruit, continue to enable your body to burn fat. But those carbohydrates that are refined, either drinks or foods, will simply have you craving more of those foods, throwing more newspaper onto the furnace doesn't give you real energy, just the illusion of energy, training you to crave even more of that low nutrition energy. I want you to imagine that you're back on that chair looking up at that large TV screen. And I want you to imagine that you're watching a particular TV show. Maybe it's an American TV show, maybe a Japanese TV show. But this is a futuristic TV show. The kind of future where anything can and will happen in the pursuit of ratings. There are big prizes, but even bigger consequences. And while you can appreciate that this TV show is simply for entertainment, I want you to get an overall sense that, like any TV show that's a game show, it's about this overall sense of competition and consequence. I want you to imagine that you're no longer on the seat, but like a science fiction film, you've been zapped into the TV, and that you're now in the future on a futuristic TV show in a dystopian society where rules and regulation don't exist anymore. And extreme things can happen in this strange world, in this strange future. I want you to imagine that in this particular TV show, you are the only contestant. And in this TV show, there is some eccentric presenter letting you know the premise of this game show. I want you to imagine hovering above you in a cage are people that you care for and love the most in the entire world. I want you to imagine that they're hanging there in a cage, like something you would see in some old-fashioned James Bond film. They look distressed. They're making eye contact with you. And I want the game show host to explain that you have a certain amount of time to lose a certain amount of weight. And that if you do not lose that weight by that time, something unimaginably horrible will happen to the people you care for most in that cage. And I want the game show host to then play a show reel, perhaps of what's happened to other previous guests, but something horrible that happens, something that if that was to happen would be the worst possible situation that you could experience in your life. And I want you to feel the overall anger, rage, fear, the overall sense that this outcome must be avoided at all costs. And if you can feel a sense that this cannot happen, just let me know by nodding your head. That's right. And now what I want you to do is I want you to imagine that the game show host is showing you a future. That if you do lose the weight by that particular time, that actually all child poverty and all child hunger globally around the world to millions upon millions of children would be eradicated. He's now showing you a video of what that would look like. I want you to see that starving children, poor children, vulnerable children would all have those issues completely disappear if you're able to lose that weight within that time frame. It gives you an overall sense of pressure because not only do you know what's at stake, the devastating consequences of not losing this weight, but also by not losing the weight within the time frame communicated in this TV show, it would also mean misery for millions upon millions of children. And then you start thinking about what it would mean to lose this weight within this time frame. That not only you would be able to embrace perhaps your family, those people that matter most to you, but also you would be giving hope, health, security to millions upon millions of children that without your impact would not experience that future. There is a phrase used in poker sometimes called high stakes, where the consequences are hard, harsh, but the payoff can be huge. And I want you to get an overall sense that in this game show, this is what's happening right now, that the stakes could not be any higher. And I want you to start thinking, within the time frame that you have for this TV show, over however many weeks, what you would do. And I want you to think first of all what you would do nutritionally if you knew what was at stake and you knew that you couldn't take any risks, what you would choose to make your primary food source. I want you to think what you would eat, when you would eat, how much you would eat, to guarantee that you are making steady progress day by day, week by week. And if you have an overall sense of what that would be like, let me know by nodding your head. That's right. But more importantly, I want you to get an overall sense that when it absolutely comes to it, this is not even difficult. Because there is no food that can tempt you away from doing what's right for the people that you care about most. If it came down to you having a treat or thinking about the very livelihood of millions of children around the world and the lives of those people that matter most to you, I want you to get an overall sense that this would be the easiest decision in the world. I want you to create a scenario in your mind's eye where someone is trying to convince you to have some of the foods that you've been eating recently, that they couldn't pay you any amount of money to eat these foods, you simply wouldn't want it. They could try and talk you into it by saying, oh, it's just it's just a small amount. But you get an overall sense that whenever they try to do that, you get an overall sense that things are more important. That the ability for you to connect and be there for your family is more important than any food. And if it feels like it would be exactly how you would think in that moment, let me know by nodding your head. That's right. You get an overall sense that you would choose to eat less, that you would choose to eat primarily for health and nutrition, because if you got sick, it might impede your ability to complete the game show. The game show premise is that you have to eat every day, You can't starve yourself. But of course, what you eat is entirely your choice. You get an overall sense that you would eat for nutrition. You would eat bulky, fibrous foods, and the majority of the food that you would eat would be vegetables. But that doesn't mean you can't enjoy the vegetables. In fact, by knowing that you're improving your own health, by knowing that you're doing what's right for your family, and by knowing you're doing what's right for the world at large, not only are you eating foods that create health and vitality, but you are also feeling good each and every time that you do it. And if you accept that this would be a useful strategy to adopt, let me know by nodding your head. And then the TV show host asks you to plan your strategy when it comes to exercise. I want you to imagine that there are a team of experts, doctors, personal trainers, coaches. You have access to all the wisdom, all the knowledge about the most effective ways to lose weight. And what the experts tell you is that if you try to do much vigorous exercise, you run the risk of an injury. And if you're injured, you can't continue with the exercise and therefore you won't be able to lose sufficient weight. They all agree and guide you in the sense that more moderate exercise done for either a longer period of time or more frequently is going to be more effective than the occasional short stints of exercise. They encourage you to do the kind of activity that would train your body to burn fat by accessing a heart rate known as the fat burning zone. At around 130 beats per minute, you're not completely out of breath, but your body is now relying on your body fat as a fuel source. They explain that at that heart rate, you can exercise for long periods of time, and also you can do it while you're doing other things. Maybe listening to a podcast, maybe watching a TV show, maybe doing something else. They explained that by doing something simple but effective can train your body to burn fat while ensuring your body is in a calorie deficit. The combination, they explain, of not only eating lots of vegetables in your diet, but also having cardio activity that trains your body to burn fat compounds the overall results than any one of those things individually would achieve. The health experts also explain that whenever you do any load-bearing, weight-bearing, or any form of resistance training against your muscles will get stronger. They explain that the more muscle mass that you have on your body, the faster your metabolism becomes. Therefore, you will choose strategies that enable you to healthily, but more importantly, consistently train your body to burn fat. And I want you to kind of think of what that would look like in your own life, with your own time. The TV show host has been very clear. You can't simply stop working. You have to do the kind of things that you would normally do. The only thing that you can influence is what you eat and what you do in your spare time. And I want you to think about what that would look like in terms of exercise and eating in your spare time now. As if you're experiencing it through your own eyes, as if you're doing it day after day after day. And if it feels like this is something that is achievable and manageable, let me know by nodding your head. That's right. Now, in this particular TV show, because they've got such large budgets, they've hired all of your friends, all of your colleagues, and all of the people that you feel like you can trust to try and influence you away from winning this game. Friends perhaps might try and encourage you to have takeaway food, excess drink. But knowing that there are people out there trying to influence you to lose this game, I want you to think about how you would respond. The premise of the TV show is very clear. The TV show host says that you can't be rude or disrespectful to anyone. But equally, you don't have to agree to anything that you don't truly want to do. And I want you to play out a few scenarios in your mind's eye right now of what it would be like for other people to try and tempt you away from your plan, and how you can counter that. The kind of things you could say, the reasons you can give. You can't tell them that something devastating is going to happen, but you would have to give them plausible reasons that they would agree with as to why you can't do the thing they're encouraging you to do. And when you've thought of a few things, I want you to get an overall sense that it was easier than you thought it would be. You were expecting so much pressure to be able to do these things, but when you tap into your highest values, you find that it's very easy to just tell people that you don't feel like it right now. Maybe later. Not now, maybe another time. And if you feel like you can handle these attempts to steer you off course, let me know by nodding your head. That's right. And I want you to imagine that a whole week has gone by and it's the next episode of the TV show. I want you to get an overall sense that you're being weighed publicly on live television. But as you think back to the last week, you're thinking that the majority of what you were eating was indeed healthy, nutritious vegetables. You didn't eat at any point if you weren't hungry. And you find it strange that actually you've been sleeping better. You find it strange that actually you don't seem to be that tired, even though you're eating less than you normally would. As you think back and think about how much exercise you've done over the last week, I want you to get an overall sense that you're surprised that your body has adjusted. Although there were a few days where you were a bit achy, actually what's happened is that your body's got stronger. It's got used to the increased amount of exercise on your heart and in your body and in your legs, and it's responded. In fact, the more exercise you do, the more you find that the more exercise you are able to do. And the more you've had conversations with people that try to influence you away from your goals, the more they just accepted that they would have no chance and don't even attempt anymore. As they weigh you, I want you to get an overall sense of relief as you realize that actually you've lost more weight than you needed to be on course to free those people you care about most, and also to make a huge difference into the quality of lives of other people. I want you to imagine that that gives you a sense of momentum, but not complacency. Imagine that that TV show finishes, and although on the show they're asking you to do circuit training, extreme exercises, I want you to get an overall sense that actually what contributed most to your weight loss wasn't what was happening when the cameras were on you, but it was what you were choosing to do in your own spare time. By choosing to have smaller portions, it reduced your appetite. By choosing to do more cardio, it increased your body's ability to burn fat. By choosing to lift weights, you felt stronger and you trained your body to increase the speed of its metabolism. I want you to get an overall sense that you're feeling progress. And I want you to feel that the weeks are going by. That what was difficult to begin with has now become easier and easier. That it's almost like as a child when you were in a playground pushing a roundabout. It took the majority of the effort to begin with. Once the roundabout was going around, it took proportionately less effort to keep the roundabout spinning. And that's exactly how it is with your eating and with your exercise. The hardest bit is getting the roundabout going. Once it's going, it's relatively easy to maintain. I want you to get and fast forward this TV show to the very final episode. I want you to get an overall sense that there is a little bit of anxiety because on a couple of the episodes you haven't lost as much as you needed to. But if you recall, when you weren't seeing as much progress as you anticipated, it increased your desire, increased your resilience, it increased your ability to make even better choices. They do the final weigh-in. You can tell from your body that you have indeed lost a lot of weight, but you get an overall sense that have you done enough, because they forbid you to weigh yourself in between the TV shows. They weigh you. And they announce live on TV that you haven't done enough. I want you to locate that feeling of pain and regret as this eccentric TV host explains what is about to happen to your family, to those you care about most. As that's being communicated to you, I want you to think back to what you could have done differently, what you could have done more of, what you could have done less of, and feel that when presented face to face with consequences, you know there's a few things you would do differently. And I want you to think about what those specific things were. And if you know exactly what you would do differently, let me know by nodding your head. That's right. And I want you to imagine that with that knowledge, you've gone back in a time machine and started the entire TV show from the beginning. Notice that you have even more motivation now. You have even more determination. You have even slightly smaller portions of the most nutritionally dense food possible. You exercise for longer. You look for gaps of where you can take even more opportunities to burn a few more calories. You find that you've always got the desire to take the stairs rather than the lift. You'll always look for opportunities to be active and move your body more. Maybe you would wake up a bit earlier and go to bed a bit later. I want you to think about all the things that you would have done differently but consistently, and then find yourself back on that final episode of the TV show, knowing that this time you've learned from your experiences. You feel lighter than you did before. And this time the TV show's host announces your weight live on air, and that actually you weigh less than the weight that you've been aiming for. I want you to get an overall sense of relief, pride, accomplishment. I want you to see that they're lowering the cage of those family, that people you care about most, that they're embracing you, that you did more for other people than you would have ever done for yourself. And you know exactly where that motivation exists within you. You know that if it came down to it, you could absolutely do this. Now, your unconscious mind already knows that not being able to see your family again would be exactly what would happen in the future if you had a heart attack or some kind of illness directly related to being overweight. You may have already read in the news that more people die directly as a result of obesity or being overweight, more than they do of smoking-related illnesses. That this consequence of not seeing your family is not simply something that only exists on futuristic TV shows. This consequence is being experienced by people every day in every part of the world, where as a result of them not losing weight, they suffer something irreparable that means they'll never see their family again. I want you to get an overall sense that this is not a fantasy, but something that you are determined to access these resourceful states, to do it for yourself, but also for those people that you care about most. And by you being in this resourceful state, I want you to also imagine that you're giving an undeniable example of what it means to get your health back on track, to your children, to other family members, other colleagues. I want you to see how this impacts your future beyond simply losing the weight. The things that you can do, the experiences that you can have. It changes the relationship you have with your children, your partner, your colleagues. Suddenly everyone's looking at you slightly different. You seem more in control, able to influence better than you did before. You seem to be enjoying life more. And more than one person has said that you've actually inspired them to make a change too. And if this feels like powerful motives to re-access this highly resourceful state, let me know by nodding your head. That's right. I want you to imagine that you're drifting from this TV show back into that recliner chair. It almost feels like this was just a dream within a dream, some weird nightmare of some crazy futuristic television show. But what remains with you is what it feels like to be hyper-resourceful. So disciplined, not because you have to be, but because you want to be. Making good choices, not because you should do, but because you really want to. Tapping into what matters most to you and doing it for those reasons. That actually, when it came down to it, it was easy to change what you ate, how much you ate, and when you ate. It was easy to find the motivation to exercise rather than watch TV when it became the most important thing in your life. And it was easy to give reasons as to why you're not going to eat certain foods or go to certain places or do certain things when it was a must rather than a should. And you know what that feels like now, and you'll be able to reactivate these resources whenever you see the people in your life that matter most to you. Because you know that if you do it for them, that you could be altering a future where there is a possibility of some irreparable health consequence of not losing weight. I want you to feel that by accessing that highly resourceful state, you avoid that future from ever happening. And if you feel like you have located what it feels like to be hyper-resourceful and to know what that means in your real life with your real demands in terms of time and other responsibilities, let me know by nodding your head. That's right. In a few moments' time, I'm going to count from 1 to 10 to awaken you. You will awaken full of optimism, resourcefulness, and a huge desire to take what is simply a metaphorical dream and turn it into a reality where you get to avoid a devastating future by taking control of your present. You'll awaken full of energy, optimism, clarity, with a huge desire to make immediate progress. That you will start turning that roundabout until the roundabout spins all by itself. Starting to count to awaken you. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake.
Thank you for listening to The Hypnotist with Adam Cox, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. To automatically receive the latest episodes, please subscribe. If you'd like to support the show, please share this episode with just one friend you think it could help. And if this episode helped you, please leave us a 5-star review.